Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Team Talk LinkedIn and YouTube live this afternoon. My name's Andy Dunne. I'm Team's Managing Director, and I've got the really important job today of hosting this really interesting session. In fact, this is one of the most interesting LinkedIn lives that I think we've put on so far because it's such a hot topic. And today we are joined by Team Service Partner Martin Hao from Amy AI. Good afternoon, Martin.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Me? Very well, very well. Nice and sunny.
Excellent. Nice and sunny. Yeah, it's actually about to rain here in Surrey at the moment, but it looks like it's nice and sunny where you are. Martin, thanks a lot for joining us. We're really excited to hear about your background and to really dig into your knowledge on AI and AI interviewing of candidates, which is this key topic we're going to talk about today. Can you give us a bit of an overview of you and your background and what qualifies you to tell us all this amazing information today?
Yeah, and thanks, Andy, for having me here today. Yeah, I'd love to share a lot more not only what we've done, but what we've learned over rolling out more than 70,000 AI interviews over the past 6 months. A little bit by myself, computer scientist by training. I actually looked into the transformer architecture in deep neural network around 2014, 2015, a couple of years before it suddenly became a thing, and then OpenAI and Anthropic and all that. Sadly, I didn't really pursue an academic career. I went into entrepreneurship. And I built currently one of the UK's largest online digital pharmacies. And after that, I did a few years in technical consulting, specializing in sort of digital strategy and AI strategy for large corporations. And I just saw this opportunity and I couldn't wait to jump on it, which is using AI to screen candidates efficiently at scale. So that's my background.
Excellent. Amazing. I think you're probably the most academic we've had on a Team Talk live so far. So yeah, we're really, really lucky to have you here, Martin. This session that we're going to cover today and the questions we're going to ask is based on something that you've already done. So I got wind of you at the Recruitment Agency Expo in Birmingham last year, and I heard about your talk that you did on the startup stage that was packed out audience. And you were talking to the audience all about this technology. And now we're about 5 months on, 5 or 6 months on. So I know there's been a lot of additional tech and data that you can now present back to us and give us the findings of that. And obviously a different version of what you've already presented, which is so important. I've got 13 killer questions for you, which we've prepared before this. And I think we're going to cover all the bases. But what I want to say to all the audience and everyone that's watching now, we really want to make this talk interactive. So please do use the chat functionality on LinkedIn and YouTube. They will feed onto the screen for myself to present back to Martin, and we'll get his one-to-one advice on these key questions. But you've got some slides that you want to share with us first before we get into the questions. So let's go straight in.
Yeah, Jahisha, do you mind? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to whiz through the slides as I understand the juicy bit is actually in the discussion, and it's actually the format I prefer. But yeah, just to quickly introduce myself, founder, CEO of Amy AI, hire Amy.ai or Amy Recruiter Intelligence, all the same company. We can call it ourselves Amy AI. The topic is, do you trust AI to interview your candidates? Next slide, please. Yeah, so an introduction, Amy AI is, think of Amy as your junior recruiter that does massive screening, sort of scoring candidate based on a predefined rule rubric, and then enrich your database. Everything all done within minutes of their application and through our state-of-art voice AI engine. And we deploy Amy in the most integrated way possible. Go with your recruitment tooling, scoring and scanning candidates based on your current requirements and processes, and enrich everything going back to your database to enrich candidates' profiles. And there is a little QR code on the right hand. If you want to talk to Amy yourself, feel free to try out the demo version of Amy. But also bear in mind that in actual deployment, we'll sit down with your team to co-design an Amy that would only work for you. So next one, please. Yeah, currently there are 3 use cases that are most popular amongst our clients. First and foremost is phone screening. Someone applies within 5 minutes, get a call from Amy, get their essential, so all the data collected and assessed, and then automatically sort of routed onto the next stage of their interview. And there is also using Amy to re-engage talent bank. I presume most of you would have, over the years of practice, accumulated a huge talent bank that you don't know if they're updated or not. And a lot of our clients use Amy to reinvestigate or reinvest into their talent bank to get the gold dust out of the pot. And last but not least is one of their new use cases, and this caters to both applications and business opportunities. Is when humans are at rest, rightfully so, and that's when Amy can kick in and help manage your out of office phone line. And yeah, this is basically what we are. We're a small team under 10 people, mostly computer scientists and engineers, just like myself. We're based in London, GDPR compliant. When I actually presented at Birmingham Recruitment Expo show last year, we were just crossing 35,000 candidate interviews. Now, 5 months on, we're doubling that. So as of this morning, we're 70,000 interviews conducted. And but the score that I'm most proud of is we're 4.8 out of 5 in candidate satisfaction. The team come from a very vast sort of academic and commercial background, specializing in tech implementation. Next slide, please. Thank you. And yeah, through sort of partnerships and business development, and most importantly, our amazing partnership with Team Network, we've accumulated a growing base of customers. And you might see some familiar names here, but also Amy is a company that sort of built out of care sector. So if you think of recruiting for nurses, doctors, domestic carers, that's where we came from. And we have quite a few sort of marquee clients using our on a sort of daily basis. For example, Sarah Care uses Amy to interview more than 90% of their monthly active applicants. And we have a few other very important clients like Meridian, Personal Link, and some of them do come from Team Network that just started Amy. Yeah, that's it. So we started from care, and now we're actively going into other sectors where there is a volume requirement, and where speed and quality matter. Yeah, we're present in multiple sectors, including health and social care, hospitality, industrials, logistics, and so on. Yeah, amazing. That's hopefully. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully that's the most important of the presentation.
I remember Martin giving the demo of it live on the Team Tech Day in January this year, and I was blown away by it. I mean, I was fried after that day because I spent the entire day watching tech demos. But it was such an interesting session to watch, and watching it in real time, which is brave to do that, isn't that, live in front of people? But it was amazing. And I think the next person you need to ring as well is BMW in Cobham, because I had to call them the other day to try and get a part for my wife's Mini Cooper, and I was on the phone for 16 minutes. And I think businesses that need that quick turnaround, that need someone to pick up the phone, I like triage and identify the problem, that this is coming, this tech's coming. But obviously we want to talk about this in the recruitment world. So we're really going to get into the deep dive now into these questions and get these questions to you, which people really want to hear about. So my first question, and I've had to score out 60,000 because you've just mentioned 70,000. So you've run 70,000 AI-led interviews. What's the one insight that would genuinely change how leaders think about hiring from these interviews?
That's a great question. Okay, I think that there are quite a few insights. I think the one that came to me immediately is where do this voice AI technology fit in the overall recruitment tech stack or overall recruitment strategy for any organization? We might sort of unpack that and touch upon that a bit later. But I think finding that specific use case for voice AI or AI in general as a technology in your recruitment tech stack is much more important than the AI itself. And give you an example, currently, Amy is seeing the most or delivering the most outcome by the speed, by the coverage, by the transparency. But
Yeah.
Amy currently, being the sort of the team that created Amy, is nowhere close to sort of building close to human performance in terms of building that candidate recruiter experience. So you think of Amy as a very efficient and consistent sort of screening administrator, but it's not a recruiter. It's not a replacement for recruiter. And in some organizations we've spoken to, they wanted Amy to take over the entire end-to-end recruitment, and that's just not what we could serve for. I think, one of the most important learning is to think very carefully what you want to use AI for, and what, even given the state of the art AI models, there are things that it can do a lot better than human. There are things that it can do a lot worse. So just be very selective on the use case.
How does it work then? So when you deploy an Amy, or if any company in this sector, not just yours, deploys a voice AI agent to conduct an interview, how much data does that business need on the recruitment agency, the client, the requirement, for it to make a judgment of whether or not it's going to be a fit or not for that particular vacancy?
Yes. So to be fair, I would say, being a tech purist, I wanted Amy to be the very smart, decision-driven engine that can go into much deeper conversations with candidate, but that's not often the use case demands. You could think of Amy as a very, very efficient and probabilistic way to engage candidate on the personal level, like a much better user experience. But at the core of it is quite deterministic. And that's what I think AI in recruitment should be. Whereas you have very probabilistic, very sort of elaborate AI at the interface to provide that much elevated experience. But down in the core, you have to be very deterministic on those are the hard criteria I need to assess a candidate against. So based on that, I think to answer your question, it's not much. Basically, if you're again, the answer will be different if we're looking to hire a CEO versus, for example, someone that was much more junior on the front line, where the question set is a lot less. But again, we're just trying to use Amy to mirror what you as a recruiter use to filter out your candidates. So that's on the ongoing. But I think, Andy, you also touched upon a very interesting point about pre-training. So how do we give Amy the inherent knowledge so that she doesn't need to ask all the questions, or she could know right away the good from the averages? And that's a different topic.
Okay, well, we'll get onto that because we've got some questions about that coming up shortly as well. Tell me, where do you think it's outperforming humans now, though?
I think so where Amy is outperforming human is on the scale, the speed, and the quality, or consistency / transparency, which lead to quality. Let me explain that a little bit. So speed-wise, I was just putting together a report for one of our clients this morning. So average time to shortlist for them is around 3 days, 3 to 4 working days, whereas after implementing Amy, it's under 3 hours. So the fact that she could reach out to anybody at the point of their application, which is the moment, strike iron while it's hot, right? When they are thinking about your role, they suddenly get a call, a text message and a call, and that tends to get a lot more engagement rates and under a very short period of time. So that's speed. Coverage is also very important because we as human, we rest, we sleep, we spend time outside work. AI doesn't. Amy can work, if you need, 24/7 in 16 different languages, making 1,000 calls in any minute, and they're all going through the same script. And as a result, this client actually seen more than sort of 42% of their shortlist candidate being contacted out of hours, actually. So half of their candidates are captured out of hours, which turns out to be shortlisted are good. So that's a coverage. And the last but not least is consistency, right? So like we all have good days and bad days, and recruiters do as well, right? For example, like the performance or the candidate engagement at the start of the day might be different from, end of Friday, etc. Whereas AI does this in a very super consistent and traceable and predictable way. So it's always the same set of questions, always sort of same set of structured data that get enriched onto your ATS or CRM. And that consistency is reflected really well for both candidate and our clients. That's where AI, in my humble opinion, outperforms human at this stage.
Well, yeah, because I suppose it doesn't have the time constraints that a human has. And I suppose the speed and time, and I think that's probably one of the biggest grumbles that I hear and I see, on LinkedIn, and I hear it at our regional events, is that, candidate experience is lacking because of AI at the moment, because there's just a flood of applications going everywhere. Like internal talent acquisition teams they're drowning in a sea of AI written CV applications. I mean, I've seen some tools out there that you can now pay monthly for it to go out and apply for jobs on your behalf. You give it an overview, a requirement of the type of job you're looking for, type of company, and it will actually go out there, register on the job board or the client's portal, upload the CV, fill out all the forms. People are swamped with that. And I suppose if your business is actually saying, well, actually, you're going to have to speak to an AI, but it will be a short pre-screening call to make sure that you're the right fit in order to book the call with the recruiter and get you into that, from that long list to the medium list, rather than the short list going straight to the client, because there needs to have the human interaction. I suppose companies would really want that, wouldn't they, from their recruitment agencies, that they're adding that additional layer of verification, that you're not just getting anyone applying for it.
Absolutely. And I think there is also the granularity of the information that you could get with an AI versus online form filling. So, for example, a classic case is when in the domiciliary care, there's quite a long list of secondary questions around right to work, same as sort of the driving statuses, and someone might just quickly go through the form saying that, I do have a driving license, but turns out it's provisional. and then that just wastes time on both sides, where AI can get much deeper insight from that. And also we have recently developed sort of plugins to our AI where AI could check your route. So for example, if it's a factory site or a manufacturing site, that you could say that, oh, actually I can travel there in half an hour, but AI would have to verify that for you by plugging into the Google API, Google Route Planning API, to check, actually, does that work for you? Is that really realistic? So I think Amy's getting smarter by days, but everything's around like, how do we make sure we deliver value to our clients?
It reminds me of an example. So my background is defense sector. So I was super niche, defense contractors, systems engineers, systems architects, all of them had to be security cleared. But again, like you said, like the domiciliary care, there's different levels of security clearance. And I remember getting a candidate through to offer accepted. He resigned from his job, told me he had UK security clearance, but the job required him to have a UK eyes only. He had to be born here, and he wasn't. He was born in another country. And the client had to actually rescind the offer. And he had to go back to his existing employer with his tail between his legs and say, look, can you keep me on? This opportunity hasn't worked out for me. And that was probably one of those key questions that you could train an AI to actually verify that before, which is really interesting. We've got quite a lot of activity in the chat at the moment. Most of it is people asking for demos, which is good for you. But one's just coming from Simon Sean, and Simon's asked, can Amy learn candidate behavior patterns for specific roles or vacancies? For example, it will know the best time to contact candidates based on learned knowledge of when they're likely to be responsive.
That's a great question. We were just solving that for one of our clients yesterday. They were asking, so on the call schedule, right? Amy tries to, for argument's sake, for this client, calls the candidates 5 times over the course of 3 days.
Yeah.
And then the client was wondering, like, what's the pickup rate? And I was like, actually, we need to look into that. So it did spend some time looking at the call acceptance and call completion rates at different attempts throughout different sort of time in the day, and we have a pretty good picture of what would be a like optimum time window to contact this type of sort of client, this type of candidates for the clients. And we're going to reinvest or reinvest that knowledge into the next round of outreach based on this. So yeah, sorry, a very long-winded question, but back to you, Simon. Yes, we could.
Again, there's a link back to me on this as well, because my secret sauce was I used to get into the office really early in the morning before everyone else, and I used to get hold of all of the watchdogs from the job boards from the night before, and I'd get them on the CR, and it was all manual then. So I'd upload them to the CRM, I'd email them, I'd text them. Once it hit 7 a.m., I'd start calling them, because the engineers I was trying to catch were all in a defense companies. Their mobile phones had to go into sealed lockers the whole day. You couldn't ring them from like 8:30 a.m., 9 o'clock. You couldn't get hold of them again. You'd be very lucky if you got them over lunch. So again, you'd only be able to call them again after 5 p.m. or after 6 p.m. So there's that window, I suppose, and you can think about. We got another comment rather than a question from Nick Allwood. And Nick saying, this is going to be a very difficult introduction at first for my HR network, but I can see it becoming an essential in order to provide a better service, a better, longer service to his customers. So I think it's one of those things that people are going to have to swallow this pill and learn how it's going to work with their bit. Like, it's not going to be the same for everyone, is it? Everyone's going to use a technology tool like this in a different way. I think quite interestingly on that, saying it might be a difficult introduction, and I'd like to talk now about trust. So what happens in the first 60 seconds that determines whether a candidate will engage with an AI or not?
Yeah.
So how do they with them?
Yeah. So I would never think trust is a magic, right? It's like, and obviously, if it comes from AI, like human would inherently thinking, why is this employer not contacting me themselves? Why AI? So AI has got to be given a good reason why it's AI. It's not human. And I think, so back to your question, what gives candidate trust in the first 60 seconds so that they continue to speak to an AI? Actually, the work is done even before the AI does a call. There is oftentimes a text message or an email that goes to the candidate first, saying, hi, Martin, thanks for your interest in this role. We can't wait to speak to you. That's why our AI recruiter, Amy or Jessica, or any names you pick, would reach out to you in the next 5 minutes to understand a little bit more about you. And that actually had given us 3 times higher pickup for the first attempt, just by managing candidate expectations. It's got to be an AI first. The reason is it's Sunday night, and we really want to get to you first and to get to know more about you, and also give you to tell you what the next step might be, and to save time on both sides. And that's one of very solid reasons to manage their expectations with. And so that's done before the call. And on the call, it's about how nuanced your AI is, right? We've all been there where, Andy, you mentioned that you were speaking to BMW and got stuck on the line for 16 minutes. And what worse is after that, you got speaking to the AI. Press 1 for, press 2 for, right? It's probably not even AI. But for us, it's actually just a recruiter, right? We would expect our candidates to speak to our AI the way that they would speak to a nuanced recruiter who's been recruiting for years in the sector for the same type of clients, where AI would know everything about the role, about the qualification that are related to the role, about the specific clients, about the type of jobs. We would expect candidates to ask any questions about the role, and AI should be given very comprehensive and efficient and concise answers. And AI has got to provide value as well very quickly, just maybe declaring that this is just for the speed and efficiency. And also, we're here to answer any questions you might have about this role. You can take as long as you like. You can talk even something else about, that you're interested in about this role, so that they don't feel rushed. I think that's really important for us. Those two things: manage expectation before the call and being very nuanced and specific about the role, and have that sort of surface through in the first 60 seconds. Those are the two secret weapons that we use to earn trust.
Yeah. Well, I suppose at least if they're expecting it. I mean, I've had a few AI business development agents call my mobile phone before I switched on my call screening now, which it seems to, my call screening, it doesn't like it. It doesn't leave a message and say it just cuts off. And then I've had the same number ring me 3 or 4 times, which I've just blocked. But if there was a text message coming for beforehand or a WhatsApp message, because I think, let's be honest, text messages now, no one sends them, do they? It's only about deliveries or your Sky router, on the blink, you need to order a new one or whatever it may be. What everyone communicates via WhatsApp now. Well, in the UK they do. I know they don't do it in the States, but WhatsApp is such an important communication tool. Like sending a message beforehand saying this is happening, or even training it as well to say, look, this role you've applied for, we're really excited that you've applied. It's had X amount. It's had 100 applications in the last 24 hours or 50 applications. You're one of the ones that we're really interested in. And to do that, we just need to set up a quick screening beforehand. I think that could really set the scene really well. We've got a question coming in from Sylvia Joblonska. If a candidate has been rejected from application process prior to Amy AI being implemented, would there be a way for it to have access to historic application and or reasons for the rejections in the past?
Yes, absolutely. So we had projects live where Amy would, I wouldn't say recycling through, but like basically checking through your talent bank, your historic sort of rejected candidate base. A candidate rejected June last year doesn't mean that they will be rejected same time this year, right? Because they might have like moved down in their lives, gotten some qualifications, and suddenly become available in the hours that we require them to. And yeah, we could certainly, once we have the access to your CRM or internal database, we'll be able to do a quick scan and be able to sort of engage based on the design that we both agree.
Great. Thanks for that question, Sylvia. I want to talk now about emotional connection, right, and the humanity, I suppose, of using an AI interviewer. Can AI realistically create an emotional connection, or is that just for the human part a little bit later on in the recruitment process?
That's a very interesting question.
I did say I was going to put you on the spot today, Martin. So
I think it also depends on use case, right? Like for the state of the art AI, there's like AI for gaming, AI for like counseling, and I think those are more like geared towards building that trust at the emotional level and be able to unpack the issues and sort of take the user through it. For recruitment, though, from my perspective, you can try to be emotionally like sensitive and echoing with whatever the candidate is saying, but end of the day, it's a very transactional process, right? Like you have a quality, you have the set of skills and availabilities, and we'll have a job, and let's see if there is a match. So I wouldn't say emotional connection is overrated. It's certainly very, very important in this use case, but there is other priorities on top of it. Although, while I was saying, something came to my mind. So we recently launched an instance of Amy for a large care company to conduct exit interviews for the carers. So as we will know, that care is under tremendous pressure, and the 6 month retention is less than 50%, and everyone is scratching their head trying to find out, why do people leave? And actually, I think we're the first sort of AI voice that does exit interviews in the sector in this country. And the project just got going, and we were reviewing some profiles with anonymously with our clients last week, and actually there was the pattern is quite interesting, right? People, if they leave, and they probably won't pick up. Actually, we got a higher pickup on the Amy versus their human agents conducting exit interviews, and out of those, it's quite polarized. Whereas like most conversations really sweet and short, oh, because I found a better paid job somewhere else. But there are a few that really caught our attention. It's like 20 minutes long conversation. What are they about? And then the client, they looked into it, saying actually it was someone who's raising a concern on like workplace discrimination. And to our surprise, Amy was being very patient, operating within the guardrails, and trying to poke what's going on and unpack the entire history of that incident that got the person leaving. And then suddenly this sort of escalated to the chief HR officer, chief people officer of an organization, and they started dealing with it. But this is something that never happened before.
No.
And I would think that during that 20 minutes, the carer must have had like emotional, I wouldn't say connection, but at least trust there to appreciate that their voice being heard, and wanted to give a lot of feedback to the organization, and in a very secure and non-judgmental environment by an AI. And that's where it did us proud, really.
Yeah. What an amazing use case as well. And I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think that that is something that we could do now. But, you know, I suppose when you need to think outside of the box and have a different solution, like you have to try new things, don't you, to see if they work. And that is super interesting. So that's a great example of doing something different to increase and improve a brand of an employer by actually using it. Tell me about when it goes wrong, or when an AI screening isn't done in a professional or an appropriate way. You must have some examples of that, Martin.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've had a few instances in the very beginning when we started this journey on Amy. But now things have sort of improved a lot, but we're still like picking on the learnings every now and then. I think the first thing is the perception of spam calls, right? You mentioned no one likes to get a spam. And you even put on your own iOS built-in voice filter to ask who are the callers coming from and what they do. Yeah, I think we have a couple. So if that's not done right, and it will certainly damage the employer's brand, right? Because if you had an AI that calls me, I don't know, like 3 a.m. in the morning, what the hell's going on here? It's I think we've solved for that or optimized towards that with a couple of different measures. The first is that you have to brand everything, right? So be it a text or a voice, a phone call or a WhatsApp message, you'll always be branded with your company, so that it's not being perceived as a spam. And we've also created sort of a mini functionality within Amy where if she does speak to like a voice filter, there's, you know, the ways that she would conduct herself and to explain to another AI what she's calling for and what she's doing. And she would also leave voice messages that when they're not picked up, and to explain where they're coming from. So there's like quite a lot of ways to improve that, and also definitely, you know, not calling people at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's another learning for us.
It hasn't started like creating its own language yet. Like I think I read once, was it Meta had created two AIs started talking to each other. They created their own digital language that was easier for them to communicate with, which we didn't understand as humans.
No,
it hasn't started doing that yet.
Yeah, and when one of my engineers spoke to me about, actually there was, you know, a voice that was, I think November last year when we first spotted that there was a candidate who used voice filtering, and we listened to the call, and the way that Amy reacted was very interesting. She started with "Hi, my name's," and suddenly there's like a very robotic voice from Siri saying, "Who are you?" or "Tell me what your purpose for this call." And she rather than like switching context immediately, she said, "Oh, okay," and then went on to do that. Like there's like slight surprise factor from her voice, which really got, oh wow, this is really, yeah.
I did see another post on LinkedIn quite recently, actually, and that was from a software engineer who actually posted, and there was like thousands and thousands of likes, and it said, recruiters, if you send an AI to conduct my interview, not my screening, he said, if you send an AI to conduct my interview, I'm going to send an AI agent to do it on my behalf. So I suppose that's going to be a bit of the backlash, and you're going to get that, I think, in every market, is if agents become available, cheap, cost-effective agents. I always say to people when they were searching for jobs back in the day before AI entered the scene, like create a project for finding a job. Separate email address, burner telephone number, notebook, Excel spreadsheet, whatever it may be, track everything in one place, like keep it as a project. You could almost create that project now as an agent that could actually vet calls that are coming in on your behalf as well. I'm sure that's where it's going. I'm going to ask you a question about what's going to happen in the next 1, 2, 3 years, whenever coming up at the end of this, but I'm sure we can talk about that in a bit more detail. I want to ask you about return on investment. So companies that are using Amy or again, other similar tech platforms, like where do they get ROI quickly and for the long term as well?
Yes. So I think, just to crystallize what Amy is doing versus what sort of they've been doing with their in-house recruitment team, some overwhelmingly factors that really stand out. First is speed. So you get really from the hours before your first time to contact down to like minutes, and hence that would shorten your entire total time to shortlist. And we've seen at least a 50% or 60% reduction in the total time to shortlist / offer across the board. So speed is one. Coverage is another one. Coverage meaning the percentage of the candidate who you really did screen or made contact. And that has been surprisingly low for a lot of like direct employers, where they spend hundreds of thousands every month on Indeed and various different job boards, but they are only able to screen less than 29% of their candidate is our latest benchmark. And now with Amy, that figure goes up to 87%. So nearly 3x their penetration, meaning that we're really reducing the wastage by being more active with AI in some outreach. I think overall, with speed and coverage, there's definitely cost reduction. This morning, I just got off a phone with one of our clients. They're like, we haven't been needed to run our Indeed ads anymore on this job, because Amy is so efficient. Got through everybody in the first round, and then we have more candidates than we needed right now. So we had our Indeed ads budget pulled and invested somewhere else for three weeks.
What industry was that from, Martin?
That's healthcare, by the way. Healthcare.
You need to tell them to ring Team. They need to get on Team Exchange with those extra candidates. There's a referral there. I won't talk about it in too much detail, but that. So speed, quality, and I suppose as well, like, looking back at your slides that you showed at the start, like re-engagement of let's call it what it is, dead data in CRMs, like re-engagement of that data to reactivate. What kind of percentages of businesses are they actually reactivating candidates that are in the kind of mire that they haven't spoken to for a time?
So for amongst our clients, about half of them uses Amy to re-engage our talent bank or sort of verify, validate the data in their CRM. I think everybody see the need for it, and I would highly encourage. I mean, you would know much better than me on this. Everybody should re-engage their talent bank. Why do you need to spend money to buy more intent when you already have a lot of intent sitting sort of unused, idle in your talent bank, right? I think the reason for the slower adoption is just the complexity, right? So, for example, which is, I probably nowadays spend more than 50% of my time focusing on specific implementations of Amy in our clients, because it is the last mile of implementing Amy precisely to your use case that makes or break the Amy's performance. There are like other AI recruiters who they would sort of continue to use a SaaS product thinking where they build something and hope you as a client to fit your problem into my product. Whereas Amy is the other way around, it's agentic. We need to build this entity or this intelligent entity called Amy to fit in your problem, to solve it for you. And that's the last mile that sort of, is actually quite a lot to do. So when it comes to like, ongoing applicants, we just need to like wire it up with your ATS so that when someone comes in and we instantly screen them and send it back. For re-engagement, it's a much more nuanced process. Like where do your candidate talent bank sit? Is that within your CRM? Is that within like a spreadsheet somewhere else? And how do you what are the level of completion that you would define? For example, someone just registered versus someone like, I don't know, 18
10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. 10 years ago, or someone's like very close to the finishing line, but just didn't really finish it. And we have to define criteria for each interview and for each use case. So slightly a bigger chunk of work, but we've done that for half of our clients.
But it's something that hasn't been done before as well. Like I think I see it like for a re-engagement perspective, like it's a part of a multi-channel approach of re-engagement. Including, a LinkedIn DM or a WhatsApp message, a standard email, dare I say it, a letter. Like all these things that you can do to re-engage your prior connections. It's not going to replace all of that, but it's just another weapon to use to refresh and re-engage that lapsed talent pool.
Absolutely, and also a bit more versatile. So the engagement agent that we build does not engage a candidate based on one job. It just engage a candidate, period. And a typical script would sound like, "Hi, Martin, you've sort of applied July last year when the situation wasn't quite right for you, and how are you today? I mean, where are you at, where are you now in your journey?" And then the candidate will say, "Oh, actually, I moved houses and sort of got this new qualification, finished my studies." And then Amy would actively look at your CRM system and look for like which roles that might fit this. Just like a recruiter, right? Pick up a phone call to a candidate asking, "How are you?" Actually, I got this role. How about that? Do you like the sound of that? No, really? Okay, how about that one? It's closer to you, actually. So Amy is now able to conduct conversation at that level. So it's much more versatile versus like a job to candidate match via email.
This is a lot. this is a great session. It's got my brain firing. I've got a load more other questions that I don't have listed on my board, but I'm going to continue with these ones. Let's talk about what I think a lot of people think about when they're thinking about AI doing the job of someone else is bias. So I'm going to ask you about bias, and then the next question is all going to be about the guardrails that you can put up and what guardrails need to be considered if you're thinking about doing this in your business. What examples can you give about where you've seen bias infiltrate AI interviewing?
Just on the sort of broader terms, I mean, bias and quality control is something very essential to every single AI business. And guardrail is one thing, but pre-training is another thing. Right? So just on the broad level, I think there are a few sort of weak spot that bias can infiltrate or influence AI's judgment. The first is sort of on the demographics background of the candidate, where if you don't really limit the data that you collect, AI, and don't really like prompt or set up proper guardrails on the AI to neglect those data, then AI at the end of the day is a very probabilistic system. If its rule decision engine is not deterministic, then it's bound to make mistakes, be it bias, be it inaccuracy, whatever. So I think demographics is certainly one. And when it comes to voice, another one is accent. So across different sectors. We might see people of certain sort of ancestral backgrounds tend to apply to certain types of jobs, and that we've seen that across different sectors, and they carry a specific type of accent, or they just couldn't speak English that well. And we've invested significant amount of effort into sorting this out in the very beginning, so that when accent or English speaking ability is not part of the requirement of the role, then we should not sort of assess the candidate based on their accent. So yeah, I think those are the two main instances that sort of I still carry with me from the early days of Amy.
Yeah, well, I suppose as the product, I suppose, has evolved over time as well, you've had to continually look at that. I read a really interesting book 2 years ago called The Algorithm, by a lady called Hilke Shellman. Amazing book. And it was called The Algorithm: How AI Will Hijack Your Career and Take Your Job, or something like that. But there's loads of examples in that of how it was like companies in the States predominantly were using AI to screen out CVs, wasn't calls. And it was basically taking the profiles of, talking about software engineers, team of 30 software engineers. They were all 50 to 60-year-old white males. And it was screening out females. It was screening out candidates from different backgrounds, from different countries, screening out on names because it didn't fit the profile of those 30 software engineers. It was what they were looking for to continue that team. So it's such a hot thing. And I say this to a lot of team meetings. Like, if you're thinking about buying any type of AI, the killer question, like from my perspective, is what is it trained on? Like, what is it trained on, and how is that going to impact my business? Because I think one bad judgment can really, really set you back, like, massively. Talk about guardrails, and just explain what guardrails are in this context for everyone, just in case they haven't come across that term before. What are they?
Absolutely. So for any sort of agentic AI to work, you would give them a set of rules or a set of tasks to perform, and guardrails in this case is to give enough context to the agent, so that there are certain red lines or danger zones you should never cross, or when you sense the conversation going that way, steer back immediately. And for us, things could include any sort of verbal abuse. If the candidate has been verbally abusing or asking irrelevant questions, for example, like in a recruitment conversation and talk about football last night, then but Amy shouldn't waste time on that and steer the conversation back to. So I think we were looking into the amount of prompts that we had in different instances of Amy. What surprised me, even as a trained computer scientist, was 80% of the stuff that we programmed in is not about what Amy should do, it's about what Amy should not do. And that's really interesting insight, because you're basically defining both directionally, but also into like very detailed, specific sort of training prompts that, this is stuff that Amy should never talk about or steer clear from. There's only the 20% is like, okay, move to the next stage. Okay, next question. Okay. So that in my opinion is a guardrails, but also to tying back to my previous answer, it's about the type of information you collect, right? So like we would always sit down with our clients to map the data. The minimum, we call it data minimalization. So the minimum amount of data that Amy needed from the candidate, both pre-call and during the call, to be able to make a judgment for suitability and suitability only for that role. And we don't collect anything else.
I'm just really conscious of time, because we've got like literally 10 minutes and this has flown by, this conversation. There's a couple of really key questions that I have to get in. So if you're a recruitment business owner right now and you're thinking about implementing something like this into your business, what are the 2 or 3 questions that you need to be asking that company that are supplying the AI that's going to be most relevant to your business? And this is really important that everyone writes this down, because this is one of these whiteboard moments that you need to ask these questions again and again, because you're going to get approached by, let's be honest, I get approached by hundreds of AI companies wanting to join team as suppliers, and we let very, very few in. What 3 questions are like the minimum questions you should be asking those tech companies?
Yeah. It's a great question. So the first, I'll both sort of apply my own judgment, because as a company, we'll also procure, for example, business development tools that utilizes AI, but also based on what we get asked the most from our clients' engagement. The first is certainly the use case, no doubt. Like, please don't, I'm pretty sure you won't, but like, please don't anyone to think of AI as like one silver bullet that, as a generalized AI, just like Anthropic or OpenAI, that come in and, do everything for me. It never is a case. It's always about the specific nuanced implementation that ties into a few specific workflows that would generate real ROI for you, that where AI could add material uplift to your metrics. So, for example, every time we sit down with the clients, it's about like defining what the end-to-end user journey look like. Where is your baseline at, and where AI could get you specific for that for that workflow. So I think just think about what use cases or workflows do you want AI to add value to, and that's the clarity that you need that you need throughout the procurement process. That's certainly the first one. The second one is, I would say, credibility. Because there is, companies that try to reinvent themselves on the AI, and there is also, a couple of college dropouts in, I don't know, Y Combinator that try to do the AI. Both very good, entities and trustworthy people, hopefully, but like, you need to look for an AI that had proven track record in your sector, even more importantly, in your specific use case, that had delivered value in the past. Do some reference checks, speak to their clients, and understand, have they added value? I think that's most important, because anyone can do an AI right now, but it's about the implementation that matters, that makes or breaks your AI business case. The third one, I think, third question is about basically table stakes, right? Are they GDPR compliant? Where does the data reside? How do they process? How do they approach and think about like data governance, data security? And they should have the right answers or the documentation and get ready and prepared to answer those questions.
Yeah, there was a post that I shared on LinkedIn last week. I followed quite a few AI related accounts on Instagram. I find Instagram a really good source of information. And there was a business, I can't remember the name of the business now, but we do a follow up with this. I'm sure we'll email everyone that attended this today, but I'll include the post in there. But there was an AI company that had the data, the biometric data of their customers on it. So it had their voice, their face, their passport details, everything. They were hacked. All of that data was ripped out of the business. So it's just so important that you're covered. And on your second point there about like verification and proof, I've actually created a little shortcut on my Mac now, on my keyboard, that when I get pitched by a business that I'm not sure of, or I've got very minimal mutual connections.
Yeah.
I've got this, I just put in pitch, like /pitch, and it populates this message saying, thanks. I only review outreach that includes 2+ recruitment case studies with verifiable results. Please feel free to send that to me. Many thanks, Andy. Peace sign. And then only 2 companies. So I've sent that to about 30 or 40 companies. Only 2 of them have come back to me with any credible information, because people can't be asked. Like, if they've got a product that works and they've got case studies and proof like you have, they will do that, So that's some really good point. There's your 3 top tips, folks. So make sure you get those on your whiteboard, and Jahisha will get that. Jahisha's marketing team, who's sitting in the background here, making sure that everything still works for us. She'll make sure that gets shared with everyone after this event as well. Again, very conscious of time. Last 5 minutes we got.
Yeah.
In 3 years, will candidates prefer to be interviewed by AI or by humans?
Ooh. I again would have a slightly more consulting answer.
You got
It depends. It depends, right? So it depends on the use case, right? If you're looking at like volume recruitment frontline workers, then probably people would prefer AI, because it's about the transparency of the process, the instant response, the responsiveness that really sort of get their trust and the benefit. Whereas if you're talking about like a headhunting situation where you're recruiting someone senior for an organization, I don't think AI is at the level to really outcompete human at that level of conversation, right? Sophisticity of the conversation. So that's sort of segmenting it by use cases, but also by sectors, but also by use case as well, right? Like we've seen a lot of AI tools in terms of sourcing, matching. If you walk on the floor of a recruitment expo show, like most of the AIs do business development, do sort of candidates, CV matching, etc. They're doing it pretty well already, and that's probably preferred by the candidates or by the recruiters. But there is not many that done like direct voice or even video engagement with candidates. Picture is going to drastically shift. Hopefully, there will be a lot more Amy's out there in the next couple of years doing really well in different sectors and for specific use cases that takes over direct candidate interaction. But yeah, that might be the case in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, you could even have I think the future could be like an Amy assistant that candidate could call that. What's happening with my CV? What's the update on my process? Has feedback come in? No, really sorry, it's not coming. Like the Amy will know about your inbox, for instance, or what's going on in the CRM as well. I think the evolution of this is going to be quick and I think really, really significant. 3 minutes left, folks. Is there any questions you'd like to put to Martin before we wrap this afternoon? We'll just give it 1 minute now on Q&A. Is there anything, Martin, that I haven't asked you that you hoped that I had asked today on these questions? Did I miss anything?
Not really. It's been very comprehensive. You really got me a few times with your well-prepared questions, but hopefully I give a satisfactory answers as well.
Oh, it's amazing. Like the thing about these kind of conversations is that recruiters don't get to have these conversations with people very often. And I think just sitting here and, I'm still a recruiter, although I'm Team's MD and I've been MD for nearly 3 years now. I'm still a recruiter at heart. I'm still a defense recruiter. I've done it for 17 years. And I'm always thinking of a use case of how I would use this if I was still on the tools. And I've really enjoyed picking your brain. I can, my world, I think, would struggle with a my old world would struggle with a full-on, full-blown AI interviewer. But I can see how, talking about re-engagement and warming up cold data, I think there is definitely a use case for a lot of it. There's some more thanks coming in here, special thanks, and some, I don't know who's doing it. I don't know if it's coming from LinkedIn or from YouTube or what, but I thought it was a really great session. Everyone that's attended today, we'll send Martin slides over with his contact details to book a demo. I would definitely be booking a demo now to see how I could use this in my business. And thanks a lot, everyone. I thought that was wonderful. Martin, it's been a pleasure spending the last hour with you. And
thank you.
You're great. Last thing before I go, Jahisha will kill me if I don't say this. It's 50 days to the team annual conference today. Team annual conference is the biggest day of the year for the team network, where it's going to be at Chesford Grange in Warwickshire on the 5th of June. Martin, got to point this way now. Martin, we hope will be there as well. But we've got a star-studded event lined up. Great speakers, workshops. There's an AI in tech workshop in the afternoon. We've got Van Rath there, who's going to be talking about AI in the morning as well. But it's the big event for team. Guests are welcome. So if you're not a team member, you can still come for the day. Day tickets are £120. So shoot us a message back afterwards if you're keen on team conference. But thanks again. Wrapping this with 10 seconds to go. Really, really great session. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for having me here, and thanks for a very interesting conversation.
Bye, everyone.